Welcome to Wine Soundtrack South Africa. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Morena Kalo, and today I'm joined by Petri Fonte from Chant Wines. Welcome, Petri. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So, hello everyone, I'm Petri. So I studied at Stellenbosch University. That's where the whole venture kick-started. Born in Cape Town, moved to Stellenbosch. Obviously fell in love with the vineyards and the surroundings. And after Stellenbosch University, I did a vintage at Rooster and Rothschild, and then from there moved to the new venture, which is what we'll be speaking about today, which is Chant Wines.
Awesome. And tell me about Chant. Where is Chant located?
So Chant is located in the Polkadraai. So for those of you who don't know where the property is, because it's brand new, it would be neighbouring Breineke, the Toren, to a certain extent Privaat, and then basically going up around all the way to Boschkloof. So it's situated sort of on a small hill with a bit of rolling hills in the Polkadraai region. And the nice thing about the Polkadraai and about Chant is we really want to focus on the fact that this is a Polkadraai wine farm.
So really site-specific and true to that for sure. How many hectares of land are you currently farming under vine?
So at the moment we have 140 hectares. Not everything is planted yet. So it basically started as a small section on the one side of the road, and we planted some younger vines there, and then bought into another property which is right next door to us, and then slowly but surely the whole idea around Chant expanded, and there was another site that we purchased and then another site that we purchased. So it kick-started as a smaller site, but the idea for us was to grow and to grow scalable, so we had to sort of add small batches as we could buy them along the Polkadraai region. And now basically every single site is situated right next to one another. So this would form the larger part of the Chant property, and that would be the property that we're going to replant most of the vineyards, but we also have some older vineyards that we're already using that's obviously in production by now.
And is there any thinking of further expansion? Where do you see yourself in the long term? What's the capacity, shall we say?
Well, for now, because it's still a baby, we're definitely the new kids on the block in terms of wine route Stellenbosch. So expansion, not yet. We're happy with what we have at the moment. I mean, we have 80 hectares that's planted, not yet bearing fruit, but we'll definitely expand to the full 140 hectares that we can plant. At the moment, we're on our 2019 vintage for the Rouge, which would be the bulk, and the Rouge is what we get for on the property. So for now, we want to get the brand out there. It's new. I mean, we only launched in, 2 years ago, October. So our main goal at the moment, before we're thinking of planting more, is to get the brand out there, to get it sold, and to get it visible in the South African wine industry.
Now, you mentioned the Rouge. What other wines are there in this portfolio, and what's in the Rouge?
So the Chant brand is basically two wines. So it's a Chant Blanc and a Chant Rouge. So the Blanc is 100% Chenin Blanc from the property. It's an older vineyard Chenin Blanc that was situated on the site when we bought this property. It's about 3.5 hectares, 35 years old at the moment. Beautiful block. When I sketched the picture of this block, it always looks like small bonsai trees standing along a line. It was trellised before, but now it's sort of lend itself more to a bush vine, naturally folding open. So the 100% Chenin Blanc for us was a great addition to hit the market as a duo. Otherwise, we would have entered with one wine at the start, which we did, which was the Chant Rouge. And the Rouge it's something different. It's all of the varieties that we had on our property. So it's a blend of 5 varieties, which would be Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, and Sangiovese. So a bit left of center. We wanted to be different. We didn't want to hit the market with another Bordeaux blend. We had the Sangiovese, we had the Shiraz, and we said, okay, well, why not? Let's use it. This is our brainchild. It's the salt and pepper that you add to the blend, and it's working extremely well.
It's definitely a left field blend, which is exciting. I think it's nice to have something a little bit different. Tell me about your logo. So the logo and the name refers to Le Chant du Coq, which is obviously the cockerel. How did that come about?
So, yeah, Le Chant, I mean, as soon as you voice it, it immediately sounds French. So we're owned by a French family. They have a property in Provence, they have a property in Sancerre, where they're 100% Sauvignon Blanc. Provence is white, and obviously rosé, and a little bit of red. And then another joint venture in Sicily with the Planeta family, which is quite a nice attribute to have. And Le Chant, the meaning, the name, we wanted to go for something that's, the look and feel should be French, but if you look at the label and you see the rooster, you still see it's farming, it's sort of that boertjie that's coming through. Obviously, Le Chant, I mean, the label, when you look at it, it's a rooster that's chanting, and it's different. So just like the blend, we wanted to be different from the start. So we always say the chanting rooster, the rouge has a left foot that's red and the white doesn't, or the blanc, and not many people really pick it up. But once again, we're sort of playing with the funky vibe and the younger generation, the new look and feel. And this is a rooster that we want to let out, and this rooster should fly in the next few years.
And make a lot of noise, as roosters do, hopefully. So speaking of making a noise, there is a Le Chant wine bar in Stellenbosch. I haven't been there myself yet, and note to self, I will one day. At the moment, obviously, growing presence in the South African market. Are you exporting at all yet?
So slowly but surely we're hitting the international market too. Obviously the main focus for us now is just to get the South African market aware of the brand, because it's not just another bottle with a label on it. It's a physical brand. It has a house. We've planted the vineyards. We're farming the grapes. We're producing the wine ourselves. We've had some international markets that have already jumped on board. So America would be our biggest market. So we're doing America. We're just starting to supply Amsterdam, or not Amsterdam specifically, but the Dutch market. So we have an entry in the Dutch market, and then we're in terms with the Belgium. So slowly but surely it's getting out there. Obviously France is taking the wine too, and then we're looking at possibly hitting the UK, or we're definitely going to get there soon, and from there we're going to try and go as broad as we possibly can.
Okay, big aspirations. Good luck with that. Let's talk about you, Petri. Winemaking, how did that happen? At which time in your life did you go, ooh, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so, I mean, when I grew up, I definitely didn't think that I was going to become a winemaker. Obviously, when I was younger, my dad always told me I get mira in my gat, which means I was an extremely busy boy as a child. So I definitely knew the business, or beer rec and all of that wouldn't be a potential job for me, because an office job is the last thing that I would want to do. And funny enough, I actually played a game on Facebook, and it was called Farmville, and as you hit certain levels you can plant different crops, and with the different crops you can get higher amount of money off of the yield that you get. And when I got to a certain level, I stagnated at the point where I only planted vines because it made my property look the best. So that's sort of where the whole wine thing started picking me. And it's a funny story if you think of it, that this was the brainchild of where I'm sitting now. But when we moved to Stellenbosch, you're in the vineyards, I mean, you're running in between the vines, the school is right next to a lot of vines. And then because of what happened on Facebook, the whole idea around becoming a potential winemaker started happening. And I mean, looking back now, it's definitely the best decision that I could have made, because in the vineyards, it's not just winemaking. You making wine, you farming grapes, you selling the wine, so you're basically covering the whole process of every single facet in terms of different jobs that you can get out there.
Well, there you go. That Farmville, for all you parents listening, wanting to stop your children from playing games on their phones and in their laptops, Farmville can inspire to become a winemaker. There you go. This is a first for me, and it's made me very happy. What a great story. So, in terms of your enjoyment of wine, when did you first start drinking wine?
So, yes, if I think of wine, I mean, back when we were small children, always over Christmas or on a nice event, my dad would give us, or my parents would give us a small glass of sweet wine, and that was always our most favorite part of the evening. Is you get a small glass, and it's those small little sweet wine glasses, and you have one glass of sweet wine after dinner. And that was the kickstart of the whole journey. But I mean, if I look back at wine drinking, I think it started at university, and it definitely didn't start with proper wine. My first wine drinking experience was Namakwa sweet rosé in a plastic cup with a lot of ice. That usually did the job. And as we moved on or progressed in terms of university, second year we did more training in terms of the different tastes, the different smells. We did international wines. You would get small little canisters with different fruits in, and then from there we sort of developed our palate. So it kickstarted I think it kickstarted in the right way, because you start with the potential bottom of the range, and now you're ending at the top of the range, which is fantastic.
And tell me, throughout all of this, was there ever a wine that you drank that kind of made you go, oh, okay, now I get it?
Yeah, so at university, I think the first wine that I drank that I thought, wow, this is amazing, and that's the reason why I still love Old Vineyard Chenin Blanc. It's not because of brandy though. It was Old Vineyard or old wine from Kaapstad. Was that 1947 Chenin Blanc, and that was the point where I thought, jeepers, this is an amazing Chenin Blanc. And I mean, Chenin Blanc is a variety, is so well planted, and that's why I really enjoy the variety now. And probably in terms of red, the Boschkloof Epilogue Shiraz is up there as the wine that I tasted for the first time, that I thought, this ticks off all of the boxes in terms of winemaking, farming, and a style of Shiraz that I really enjoy.
Those are two amazing wines to inspire. I must agree. I can, I think that would inspire me as well, for sure. What is your opinion on wine critics and wine scoring and competitions and that kind of thing?
Well, for me personally, I think every critic has a different palate, and in South Africa, I mean, you have Platters, and then obviously Tim Atkin is quite a good critic to listen to, and it's not like I'm saying the rest is not as good as these two. I mean, every platform targets a different category of winemaking too, which is amazing. So I think the critics definitely help, and the critics help to get brand South Africa out there and more aware in terms of international markets, and obviously in the local market too. Most people buy for a sticker, or most people listen to the reviews written by all the international critics that would come down to South Africa. So even though every palate differs, and each wine differs, and each story differs, I firmly believe the best way is, if everything was tasted blind, then it would have been fair by a country mile. But as soon as you look at a label, then opinions start differing, and it becomes a different way of approaching a specific wine.
And then as a consumer, what do you enjoy drinking? Red, white, sparkling wine? What's your kind of go-to generally?
Well, luckily I'm not a picky customer. I enjoy wine a lot. But if it comes to white wine, the variety of choice is 100% Chenin Blanc. I really enjoy Chenin Blanc. I think it's an extremely versatile white grape variety, even though the other varieties are too, but Chenin would be my preferred variety of choice. And it's very much dependent on what the scene is, what the setting is, with who you're consuming. And if you consume with a bunch of people that really enjoy wine, then you open proper bottles of wine, you sit, you buy a steak as thick as the yellow pages, and you drink a proper bottle of red wine. So red wine, I'll definitely go for a lighter style. I think if you take well, actually what I've been drinking a lot lately, especially over December, was just a normal Cinsault as a kickstart to the evening. And then you end with your Bordeaux blends. Usually the problem with us is when we're with our interns and if we have a braai, we always start with the wines that we think we should consume first, and then we end with the big boys last. So I think this year we're going to take the best wines first and end with the other ones at the end, because otherwise it's a big party before it's too late.
Yeah, I hear you completely. In terms of food, you mentioned having that thick steak that's as thick as the yellow pages with a nice bottle of red wine. Do you have like a philosophy when it comes to food and wine pairing? Do you think there's kind of a recipe that one can follow, or is it more trial and error and just playing around?
Well, once again, if we get back to different people, different palates. For me, if you're looking to eat a creamier dish, then go for a wine that will suit it, like a Chardonnay. If you're going for a curry or a butter chicken, I mean, go for something with a better acidity, like a Chenin Blanc. Or if you do a stir-fry Asian, I think the best variety of choice would be a Riesling. But, I mean, everything that I mentioned now for me was trial and error. As soon as you prepare a dish, Google what would work with the dish. And then slowly but surely you're going to learn or teach yourself how to pair wine with food. And I mean, when I started doing food and wine pairings, there was never a right or wrong. You prepare a dish, I've tasted many different wines before, so I immediately knew, okay, this is going to work best with that wine. But the best would be is just to either do a trial and error or Google Google has every single answer in terms of food and wine pairing. So there's no right or wrong, and it's highly dependent on you and the way that you structure your meal.
Yeah, I think having that freedom of just playing around and doing what you do with your food and just as long as you enjoy the bottle of wine, for me, I think makes a lot of sense.
Finish the bottle of wine.
Just finish it. I'm going to assume, I'm not even going to ask, but I'm going to assume that you might have found yourself in the position of perhaps overindulging a little bit now and then. Do you have a hangover cure?
Well, I mean, most of my friends always ask me, how is it possible that you consume this amount of wine and still feel fresh the next day? My hangover cure by far is, before you go to bed, 2 grandpas, 2 glasses of water, big glasses of water, and then you eat the next day, guns blazing. Don't chill in your bed and relax. Get out, get into the mountains, go for a swim. There's not a chance that you'll get a hangover after the grandpa and the natural cleanse from the beauty of the planet Earth.
I love that. So I just need to clarify for our international listeners. So grandpa is like a headache powder. It's like a powder form of... yeah, it's not very tasty to consume at all, but you basically swallow it with some water. And it's also got a lot of caffeine in. So it gives you quite a kick. Especially the next morning. I don't know if I'll have grandpa just before I go to bed with all that caffeine, but yes, that's a grandpa headache powder here in South Africa. I'm not sure if you can find it anywhere else in the world.
No, depending on the hangover, I think it'd be even better to take it with a glass of wine. Then you're going to feel 100% the next morning.
Or with a glass of wine the next morning, just to replenish those levels, I think.
To get back to equilibrium.
Exactly. So, in the same way that fortune tellers would read tea leaves in the bottom of a teacup, if you could read the sediment that is left over after an old red wine in the glass, what would those sediment bits say to you about the future for Le Chant?
Well, the sediment, if I think about this question, it's a nice way of hitting and stating it. The sediment would definitely say, well, age-worthy red wines, fresh, an expression of the Polkadraai, something to look out for in the future. Now, if a wine has sediment, it's already old. So what I think is that if you get to the point where you taste a wine or a Le Chant wine with sediment, that means we've made it, because then we're at least 20 years in.
Awesome, I like that answer. So you alluded to your dad saying that you had ants in your pants and that you were a very busy little boy and that you would never be able to do like a standard office job. But when you were little, like 5 years old, what did the 5-year-old Petri want to be one day?
Yes, the 5-year-old Petri who actually wanted to become like a builder, or my dad was into renovations and building houses, and I really thought that was quite interesting. I like the way it's a practical approach. I mean, you get to a point where you're looking at a piece of land and then all of a sudden you have a beautiful house that's standing in front of you. So I like the creative side of building and constructing something out of nothing. And I mean, that's probably the same with winemaking. Is you plant a vine, it takes 3 years, or it's first a year of cover crop and a year of working the soil, and then it's planting, and it's another 2 to 3 years before you're bearing fruit, and then it's another 2 years before you get to the point where, like, okay, yes, we're here now. And then a year or two later, you have your first bottled wine off of a small piece of land that looked fallow and didn't look like it was worth anything. So I like the correlation actually between the two.
Yeah, it's a lot quicker to build a house, I think, than it is to make a bottle of wine. yeah, you need a little bit more patience when you make wine. So when you're not working, what do you do in your free time?
Yeah, so as I said, when I was younger, I'm active and I'm busy. Yes, I do a bit of everything. I think my most favorite hobby would probably be crayfish diving when the season is open. And then it would be trail running, is a sport that I'm very fond of. So every day after work or before harvest, after work, I'll go for a nice trail run. It's the best way to clear the mind. And then I also do cycling, swimming. So I'm an adventurous human being. I like getting out into the mountains, exploring what's out there, looking for new spots, different spots. But in between diving and running, cycling and swimming, that would definitely be my hobbies of choice.
Now I know who to phone when I want some crayfish tails. And tell me, are you into any music, any particular bands, artists, genres?
Yeah, well, music, I enjoy a wide range of music. I mean, if I go back to the golden oldies, I always enjoy a golden oldie, like a Neil Diamond is something that we listen to quite often. If I'm feeling jolly, I'll go for an ABBA playlist to get the vibe of everyone moving. But otherwise, it's probably a bit newer bands but most of the listeners would know MGMT, Milky Chance. I'm not 100% sure which genre it is. For me, I listen music because I enjoy the sound of it. So I'll even enjoy jazz. It's depending, jazz or classical music. So depending on the atmosphere and the surroundings, I'll choose what music I'll listen to. But I'm not a diehard, for instance, rock fan, or I like to listen to music that makes me feel happy and more keen for life.
Nice, very nice. And movies? Are you into movies at all? Any all-time favorite movies that you can watch over and over?
I'm more into documentaries than movies. So, I mean, if we look at documentaries, it would be David Attenborough all the way. So I like actually watching something that's teaching me a bit more about, it doesn't even have to be the nature, it's a bunch of different things. So documentaries in the form of every single documentary that's out there, I really enjoy. If it's about hiking or Formula One or the Tour de France or the natural beauty, I prefer watching a documentary than sitting for 3 hours and watching a movie. Otherwise, I get bored way too quickly.
I agree with you on that. I must say, now with Netflix at our fingertips and such amazing documentaries that are on there, we tend to watch more of those documentaries. And then, of course, the kind of real life scenarios of people working on boats, and which is always hugely entertaining. My word. For a romantic evening, now I don't know if you've got a partner or not, but for a romantic evening, either with your partner existing or someone you would like to woo, what wine would you order for the table?
Well, if I'm on a date in South Africa, my first bottle that I'll order will definitely be just a fresh and fruity Chenin Blanc. Once again, as you can hear throughout this whole podcast, that there's a theme, and it's Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc, yeah, as I said, it's even for a romantic night, it's perfect. Otherwise, I'll go for something like a Shiraz, because it's versatile and you can enjoy it with any different type of food. So hopefully the potential date is not picky in terms of white or red. But yeah, it's either going to be a Chenin or a Shiraz.
Okay. What would you say, Petri, a little bit more serious, would be the best piece of advice you've ever received? Or if you were to give someone some life advice, what would it be?
Well, if I had to, it's a good question to ask. But what I would say is live life to the fullest, never look back, always smile, keep on moving forward, and just do the basics of life in the correct manner. And if you follow those guidelines, I don't think there's going to be any fluctuations and up and downs in terms of where you're going and what you want to achieve in life.
Nice. Yes, I think that's sound. Very sound advice. So you're still a young guy. You've got your whole future ahead of you. But to date, what would you say is your proudest achievement at work?
The proudest achievement would definitely be the first day that Skalka and myself, we stood here in front of the foodre and we tasted the wine and we said, yo, this is the potential, this is the future of our new brand. The previous brands that we part of already had a legacy. This is something new, this is something out of the box. And the feeling of excitement and the smile that I had on my face while swirling the glass in my hand, which is now the Le Chant Rouge and the 19 vintage that you'll currently taste on the market, was by far one of the best days of my life. It's definitely something that I'll be looking back to as every vintage progresses in the foreseeable future.
I love that. That's making me feel so warm and fuzzy and goosebumpy all over. That's really special. And I hope that feeling lasts for a very long time, because it's, the most basic thing is having that deeply set pride in what you've created, and it's a big deal actually. Many people forget about those, but it is a big deal. That's really special. Okay, so a VIP, some really fancy schmancy famous person, was photographed by paparazzi at a fancy restaurant, and on the table was one of your wines. Okay, who is that who is that famous VIP person?
Yes, if I look at the look and feel of our brands and the fact that it's young and adventurous, I think for the Le Chant Rouge I'll go for Bakkies Botha. A big rugby player that can consume copious amounts of wine. No, that's famous, I'll probably go for someone. That's actually movies that I enjoy. Is Matthew McConaughey sitting chilled, laid back with a bottle of Lechon, thinking about life, looking straight into the future, and saying, "This is what we want to do. This is how we're going to fly and move forward."
All right.
That's it. Imagine sitting with the all right, throughout the whole night, drinking wine, laughing, and just having fun. That sounds like a brilliant idea. Hopefully he's going to listen to this podcast and he's going to come to South Africa and drink some Lechon with me.
Let's hope so. You never know. You never know who this reaches. If you could share any bottle of wine from anywhere in the world with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be and what would you be drinking?
So, well, I would just see. This is a tough one. This is something that I definitely haven't thought of. The wine would be a Northern Rhone Shiraz. That's a specific style that I really adore. The person that I'll share it with will just see. What would it be, eh? I'm actually not 100% sure. You're catching me off guard on the specific one. I'll have to go for, my mom, she passed away. And I would love to share even a bottle of Lechon with her. She hasn't tasted it before.
I think that would be super, super special. Yes, that's the one. Okay, what sort of wines do you think will be drunk in the year 2300?
To be dead honest with you, I don't think much is going to change up until 2300. If you look back at the thousands of years that winemaking has evolved, it's still the same varieties that suit different sites. So in terms of, there's definitely going to be new varieties. I'll probably not be the one cloning the new varieties in a lab, but I think they're still going to consume a Chenin Blanc in South Africa, and they're still going to consume a Shiraz in Rhone. And yeah, the one place that I actually saw some funky varieties when I was there was Turkey, varieties that I'm not used to. So it's more or less what we have at the moment. Because, in South Africa we already have close to 100 different varieties that have entered, and it's difficult to predict in terms of climate where we're going to be even 30 years from now, as each vintage lately has so much fluctuations and differences. So it's going to be more which variety that we currently have to plant at what specific site or aspect or altitude.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point in that regard. I think there's a lot of fluctuation, a lot of variation, and weather patterns are changing so much. It's interesting times, that's for sure. Name any three wines that you would take with you to a deserted island.
Three wines, going to be three varieties.
Sure.
Okay, I'll do a Pinot Noir, because a Pinot Noir is a wine that you can either produce in a more extracted style or less for a lighter style red wine. And then I'll end with a proper Bordeaux blend for the late nights when you're extremely alone and you just want to sit and chill and cry. And a white wine, I'll definitely go with Riesling, old or even any form of German Riesling. If I'm trapped on an island with only Riesling, I would be happy for the rest of my life.
Okay, very happy having the Riesling, but crying with your Bordeaux. I love that. Is there a winemaking area anywhere in the world that you'd really like to explore?
Yes, I would definitely like to do something different, like a Corsica for a sweeter wine, or even all those smaller islands. Even Croatia, I think there's proper or interesting wines coming out of there in the forms of white and red. I obviously did a vintage in Sicily, which was amazing, and in France, which was amazing too. But yeah, I'll go for something complete opposite to what I've done, something out of the box, maybe even to do a Pantelera sweet wine. I think that would be an amazing experience.
That is interesting. I went to Croatia last year and explored some of the winelands there in the Istria region, and I must say, very interesting wines, really good wines, and something worth checking out for sure. So we're just about done. Before we finish, I'm going to finish with a little game. So you mentioned that you've got another game. So you mentioned that you've got quite a varied palette when it comes to your music taste. So what I'd like to do is I want to pair music with a wine, either a style or a varietal or something like that. Okay. So I'm going to give you the varieties or varietals or styles, and you're going to pair that with me, with either the name of a song or a specific artist or even a genre. It doesn't need to be specific, but if something really kind of comes up that you go, yes, this is it, then we go with that. So it would be wrong not to start with Chenin Blanc.
So Chenin Blanc, I'll go for, if I look at a song, I'll definitely go for a Dancing Queen. Because if you have a glass of Chenin Blanc in your hand and you're sitting in a nice setting, you just want to sing and dance constantly.
Yeah, I like that. Mamma mia all the way. Then let's go with a Rhone style red blend.
So a Rhone style red blend, I'll go for something more in the form of sitting under an oak tree in the middle of Stellenbosch, listening to nice French or Italian lounge music, just cruising, taking in the surroundings and having fun.
I can see that actually in your mind's eye right now, definitely. And just because you evidently love it quite so much, what about a Rhine Riesling?
A Rhine Riesling? Well, if I sit with a glass of Rhine Riesling, I would want to listen to Andrea Bocelli, chill and savor every single sip of the Riesling that I'm consuming.
I love that. Very nice. Petri, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to remind our listeners where they can find more information about Le Chant online, social media?
So you can go on Instagram, we have a page. You can go and follow it there, check it out. It will definitely give you a nice idea of what we're doing and where everything is situated. You can even buy it at the wine bar in Stellenbosch. So it's right at the bottom of Church Street. And if you're looking to buy it, you can buy it either online. So we have a website that's active. You can just search Le Chant Wines and it will pop up. And from there, hopefully you indulge and enjoy the wines that we're producing. It's new, it's funky, and I think it's an exciting new brand.
Petri, thank you so much for your time and wishing you all the best with Le Chant.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack South Africa. For details and updates, visit our website winesoundtrack.com.